I will actually just, I know I didn't mention this when we talked about new things that are coming up. We're in the sort of ending stages of producing our new publication, which is a guide to immigration into New York and New York City, which will answer some of those questions. But as a briefer answer to those questions, I mean, I would say sort of to start off, it can be very difficult to find sort of that definitive immigration record. Sometimes you have to work and narrow down the process step by step. The one thing that I have learned, the more work in immigration records that I've done, is you have to look at the overall story of when someone is arriving and what records are behind outside of that one passenger list, because it might not be, the passenger list is sort of our goal, but that isn't always the one record that exists.
And there were so many people who came into New York City, if they lived here for even just a year or two, it's possible that they got in a city directory. And that could fill some time between, the next census on a state census on a 5 or a federal census on a 0. And we don't always have those state censuses for New York. There was a fire that burned the state copies up through 1911. But some county censuses do survive. So looking at other record sets to help you define. But it is difficult, and when people have changed their name to Americanized their name, for instance, it can be difficult because you may have to go back and try and figure out what their original name was.
And the other thing, remember the chain migration series. Remember the fact that you're not always going to find the complete family unit that arrives together. You might find a part of the family that comes first, and we say it a lot, but it's very true when you start looking through the records. And so don't assume that that they're going to come through all together and everything's going to be perfect in that record.
And they could have come from a port that you wouldn't have thought of too.
Yes. So, because the cost to immigrate, if you consider everything that you have to pay for and different fees that you have to pay. I was just in Ontario, Canada this past weekend, and we talked a lot about the Canadian border and people that would come to Canada because it was less expensive and then cross the border into New York. So,
and I have one line that did that, and I've researched for years for their immigration, not going to find it.